I'm again saying brief introduction because if we really go through biosketch of Amit Mahajan, you will be surprised. So I'm just touching few points from his biodata. Let me first appreciate our today's speaker who is actually speaking to us right from Dallas, and last day entire 12 hours he has done the travel, and for this commitment he is with us today morning. Amit Mahajan completed his diploma in industrial electronics from VPM's Polytechnic in 1992 and then degree in electronics engineering from Datta Meghe College. He worked for 13 years to get technical experience in 15 companies like Sintel, Tech Mahindra, BT from UK, Altel from US, Singular from US, AT&T, and many more. This made him confident to start on his own. In 2008, he formed Excalibur Technologies and Excalibur Infotech Private Limited. Excalibur created a smartphone diagnostic product which was used by companies like Flipkart, Intex, AT&T, Swisscom, Amazon, Orange, and so on. After Excalibur, in next 8 years, Amit formed Phoenix Innovation in 2016, followed by Griffin Robotech in 2018. Amit is having his offices of three companies in US, UK, Canada, and India. Let us congratulate Amit for his recent meritorious achievement because Phoenix Innovation is recognized as the top 50 fastest growing Asian American company across US in March 2020. I'm sure that you must be very curious to know about Amit, and his today's topic is also exclusive and different because it is related with the product design during lockdown period. So I welcome Amit for this session and request him to start the session. Back to Mr. Amit Mahajan.
Small flavor of what it takes to build a ventilator in a pandemic. So the topic of today's talk is how to build a product in a pandemic. Okay, and we did build a product in the pandemic, and it was a ventilator that we built. So I'll be talking through how we built it and how we overcame the physical and the mental limitations while we were doing it, right? So a quick background about us. We are a group of three companies. I've started all three of them. We work in supply chain and reverse logistics, and we work in robotics. So a background, we have about 200 odd people, people who work in electronics, so people who work in machine design, people who work in 3D modeling, people who work in circuit design, software, robotics, cloud, you name it. We have somebody who works in that space at the moment. And we use all of these people for building our own products. So just a background, when we did all this, we had these teams of people along with us, and that's how we were successful in doing what we have been doing so far. So let's start off with this. What does a pandemic mean to a company, right? Very simply, it creates a lot of challenges in any company. First of all, you have supply chain impacts. There's no transportation. And when there is no transportation, there's no raw material that's available. Employee impacts. There are lockdowns. There is no access to instruments or equipment because we are in a lockdown. So almost everybody is sitting at the home and they don't have access to simple things like oscilloscope or logic analyzers, or maybe even access to secure computer that is currently doing some kind of an AI algorithm. So it kind of creates incredible amount of constraints and incredible amount of problems. And we had all of these and more. And then, so today I'm going to talk you through the story of how we built this product, and maybe hopefully it can act as an inspiration for some of you out there to go out and build your own. Today's format is a little bit different. While we go through all of this, I will talk you through how how we thought through this problem, how we solved it, and where we are today, and what we are planning on doing in the future. The questions that you will encounter at the end of this are not going to be objective questions. They are actually going to be more subjective questions. So you are going to be asked a very subjective question, which will have a long answer, and you will have to fill up the long answer to actually get credits for this. Okay, so let's get to the next one. What else does a pandemic mean to a company? Customer order impacts. So there are typically order cancellations, there's economic stress, and so on and so forth. So how does this really create problems? It creates cash flow impacts. Due to uncertainty of the future, investing money into something new is risky and usually is avoided. Okay, so what is it if you aren't a rebel at BPMs, right? I'm pretty sure Naik sir and Agashi madam will kill me for saying this, but that's what we have been doing all these years, and we kind of bucked the trend, and we said this is the need of the hour, so we decided to build a ventilator. So why did we decide to build a ventilator? Why not do something else? Okay. In March, this was the reality of life. We all thought that this could be the end of a lot of people. Okay, US was, exceeding somewhere around 200,000 cases. New York was a mess. There were, Pune was going into lockdown. There were a tremendous number of cases that were rising, and the way at which this pandemic had spread through Italy, spread through Spain, spread through New York, spread through other parts of the country, we really wanted to contribute back. And the best way to contribute back as engineers, and the only thing that we need to know, that we knew how to do, was to fight the virus, was to build something from an engineering perspective. And we decided we would do this thing as a ventilator. So what did we do? We created an advisory panel. That was step number one. We are engineers. We are roboticists, we are software engineers, we are cloud scientists, we are AI scientists. We don't know anything about medical technology, and we most certainly don't know about anything to do with ICU medical technology, which is even more critical, because when you are in an ICU, you are in a touch and go state, and you have to be super careful with regards to the instruments that are being designed at that point in time. So we created an advisory panel. And we reached out to the medical intensivists and ICU intensivists in Pune to see if they would help. Okay. We got lucky, and we were able to get help from an expert anesthesiologist, a very reputed ICU intensivist from Jupiter Hospital, a hospital administrator from one of the proclaimed hospitals in Pune, and then a general practitioner. So we took a cross section of people who would actually use this product to help the patients, right? So in this case, this cross section of people, the anesthesiologists, the ICU intensivists, the hospital administrators and practitioners, they became our customers. That's a cross section of our customers. These are our users, okay? The end person, who's a benefactor of all of this, is going to be the patient. But the patient really doesn't have any say in how this ventilator will be used. So we figured out that these are the people who will be using the ventilator. So we need to get advice from them on what they need to have as part of the ventilator. That's how we started off. Then we started doing research on the pandemic ventilator. We researched on the internet for various ventilator designs to get some inspiration from them. We narrowed it down to an MIT design using an AmbuBag. And for the curious on this call, you can find it on event.mit.edu. MIT has open sourced their design, and they have published it. So it was pretty interesting, and we said, this looks very interesting, let's build this. And we built this ventilator, or a very simplistic version of it, within a week. Okay, it didn't cost us a whole lot of money. It was probably less than 40,000 rupees in total cost, and it was perfect, or at least that's what we thought so. It was an ambu bag with a mask and a PEEP valve. A PEEP valve is something that enables the lungs to stay inflated, a little bit inflated, so they don't completely collapse. So it keeps a back pressure in the lung on an exhale cycle. That's what is a PEEP valve. Okay. There was a stepper motor to drive the fingers that would squeeze the ambu bag. So we said, hey, how would we design this thing in such a way which mimics the human action, right? So it is a squeezing action. And so we created the fingers and there was a stepper motor driver. And then last but not the least, there was a small board with a display, touchscreen display to be used along with it, right? With a 7-inch touchscreen display. So what are the basic steps in a ventilator? Basic steps in the ventilator is step number 1, you take air and you enrich it with extra oxygen. You pump the air into the patient. Okay, the patient inhales, that is the inhale cycle. Okay, the patient then exhales, and then there is an exhale cycle that is there. And all of this needs to be managed by a ventilator. Why is it managed by a ventilator? Typically, ventilator is used when the patients are disabled. When the patients are put under general anesthesia, they do not have an ability to breathe at this point in time. The ventilator is breathing on their behalf. So the ventilator is forcing the air into the patient and pulling the air out, doing both of those things at the same time. Not exactly pulling the air out, but letting the air out in a controlled fashion. That's the key. We called our ventilator Shwas. Ours looks very similar to the MIT ventilator. It is not exactly the same, but about 70% of the ventilator is the same, right? So we named it Shwas because it's Sanskrit for breath, right? And so we said, here's a ventilator, here's how it is. We were super excited about it. We went back to the doctors and we showed this to them. This is how the MIT ventilator looks. This is how ours looks like, okay? Very, very similar. This ventilator was simple and it was cheap and easy to build or 3D print, but there was a huge problem. The realization that we had was, we realized that we are missing something. We realized that when we showed our design to the doctors on the panel, we didn't get a happy response. They believed that we were missing a number of safety parameters for a good ICU grade ventilator. So like I said, in an ICU, you have patients that are that are in a bad shape, and it is very easy to go from bad to worse very quickly. So it is important to have the safety parameters put together so that the ventilators, so that the patient's health can be managed properly. Okay. So with that, the next thing that was that we sat down to study the better and get a better understanding of the lung condition of the COVID-19 patient. So we were advised by the doctors that, hey, you did a good job of getting it to this point, but this is frankly not something that we need. This is something that we would not even put in our ICU, let alone anywhere else. So go back to the drawing board, try again, okay? By the way, this is the same ventilator that MIT has designed. Very similar ventilator was designed by Mahindra Industries. And I think there was a big deal about this by Anand Mahindra in the newspapers a few weeks ago, or a few months ago. And I think they are all suffering from the same issues that the doctors told us about as well. So we said, fine, I think that's a good feedback. Let's go back and let us study the lung conditions. So COVID-19 lung conditions, as we started understanding about this, here is what we realized. COVID-19 lung is an incompliant lung. It's a diseased lung. So what does this mean? The lung is not working at a full capacity. It may or may not be partially filled with fluids, okay? The lung may contain mucus that would stop the lung from reinflating, okay, if fully deflated. If fully deflated, can stick completely with each other. So very interesting problem. You and I would never think about this, right? So how does this affect the requirements? Okay, so there were different things that it affects in this case. Okay, we need to control the volume of air that is pumped into the patient. Okay, because the lung is not working at the full capacity. In a typical ventilator, you ventilate a patient at about 8 milliliters per kilogram of weight. That is a rule of thumb. Okay. In a COVID-19 patient, you typically have to ventilate a patient at 4 to 5 milliliter per kilogram of weight. That is again a rule of thumb. Now, doctors have a final say on how much weight they put in and how much will they adjust from the ventilator's user interface. Okay, that's how they go about it. So we understood that and we said, okay, that's interesting. And then there is also a need to control the peak pressure and the plateau pressure. Okay, these are two completely different things. So in a peak pressure, what is the maximum amount of pressure that you would create in somebody's lung when you are at a when you are in an inspiration cycle? And then what is the pressure that you hold for a certain period of time before you exhale? So that is the peak pressure, and then there is a plateau pressure before there is an exhale cycle, right? And then finally, there is a need to maintain PEEP, which we talked about a little bit earlier. It is the amount of residual pressure of air that you keep inside a lung, okay? And that's what is called as PEEP. And that keeps the lung a little bit inflated, so the next cycle that comes in, air can still go inside the lung. Now, mind you, at all of this is something that we were learning rapidly as we were reading books, as we were reading articles, as we were reading papers, medical journals, things like that online in this pandemic. So we are in the middle of a pandemic and we are doing all of this and we are learning all of this as well at the same time. So this is kind of interesting while all of this is going on. So let's see what's next. So the new design, we said, okay, how would we do and create a new design? Okay. So we went back to the drawing board and to start again the design again. Okay. We decided as a group that we wanted to build a product in this space. So we had to make a decision. Is this still only a pandemic project, or is this now transforming itself into a long-term product? That was a big question we asked ourselves, right? And I think the answer that we came to was that this is not just a pandemic project. This is a long-term product that we now need to invest into. I'm sorry, I'm going to grab my my charger real quick before this thing dies on me. Okay, but to continue the discussion, we said if we wanted to invest into this, then this needs to have a significant long-term commitment. Okay, and for that we started by reading the design books on ventilators and creating our own detailed multi-sensor design. Okay, so at this point in time, we were, if you think about it, we went in and we designed this product, okay, completely on as an open loop system when we did the first one, okay, and then we realized that as an open loop system, this was not enough, right? And so now we started creating a closed loop system with our own multi-sensor design, okay? And then we also started innovating in the idea of using AI in ventilators, okay? We started by thinking, okay, if I do have an AI-based system, what else can I do? Now, mind you, we have a very strong AI team as part of our company. And this became one of the sections that was handed off to them to go out and innovate. They came back and they said, we could create a model that can go in and within 10 breaths, figure out the compliance capability of the lung. Figure out what is the compliant capability of a lung of the patient at that point in time. And we can continuously keep on monitoring that as a background model that keeps on running on to give a doctor a better idea of how the lung is performing. So the doctors have a better idea whether the patient is getting better or getting worse. So it's like an early warning indicator. So that's an innovation we created in that space. Okay. And then this is the design that came out of it. So although this looks complicated, it is not very complicated. Once I explain it to you, you will understand. So 1 and 2 are the two inputs. So 1 is oxygen coming in, 2 is medical air coming in. And by the way, I mean, I haven't heard anything from anybody. Can you guys still hear me? Is this okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
So can you
Okay.
tell everybody what is closed loop means so that they get a better idea about it?
Yeah, so in a closed loop system, see what we just did was a closed loop. Okay, I was talking and I couldn't figure out whether anybody was hearing me or whether anybody was following and tracking, right? And what I did was I asked a question and then you guys responded to me saying that, yes, we can hear you. So a closed loop system, you get a feedback and the feedback enables you to correct. If I would not have received any answer, then I would have tried something else. I would have used WhatsApp or I would have called someone to figure out why was nobody able to hear me. So that's the difference between an open loop and a closed loop. In a closed loop system, you are continuously monitoring the signal that you are supposed to be controlling. And then based on the feedback that you get, you then make minor changes, small or large changes to your signal so that you get the output that you desire. That's typically what a closed loop would mean. So in this case, we had the 1 was medical air, 2 was or 1 was oxygen, 2 was the medical air. Both of them go into an accumulator tank. This tank has a pressure sensor and an oxygen sensor. Both of these two things are monitoring the tank. So what happens is that a doctor comes in typically, they examine the patient, then they figure out whether there is a need for a ventilator. If there is a need for the ventilator, the doctor figures out what is the amount of oxygen that needs to be given to this patient. Okay, does the patient need oxygen enrichment or does he need just normal air? Does he just need to get ventilated, right? If there is an oxygen enrichment needed, the doctor then proceeds to set an FiO2 level. Okay, the FiO2 typically in a normal air, you have got 21% of oxygen in the normal air, right? So the doctor can choose to say that, hey, this patient has less oxygen in their bloodstream. So now let me put this at 40% so that I can push more oxygen into this patient and I can help this patient recover faster. Okay, so the amount of air that goes into the patient remains the same. You just enrich that air with more content of oxygen. So this is the enrichment. So for this phase, we created the enrichment over here. The open loop is if you just had these two coming into the tank. The closed loop part of it is there is an oxygen sensor over here. There's a pressure monitor over here. And then there is a circuit that controls these valves 5 and 6 and then creates adequate amount of pressure into that tank with the adequate type of enrichment into that tank. Okay, the tank typically can have 2 or 3 breaths of oxygen of the air, mixed air in there. That's the plan. Then beyond that, there is a pressure regulator which regulates the pressure and it brings it to a very specific pressure. Beyond that, there is a proportional valve. The proportional valve is controlled by a circuit that increases or decreases the amount of opening of that valve in such a way where you can create a pressure cycle for air to be pushed into somebody's lung at that point in time. And then it goes into a V-shaped, it's a one-way valve that goes in towards the patient. Okay. At the same time, there is a flow. Number 10 is your flow measurement valve. So not only do we need to measure the pressure of the air, the volume of the air going to the patient, we also need to know how quickly is that air going to the patient. Okay. So we need to also have flow measurement. So there was flow measurement over there as well. So we did that. And then over here, number 13 is effectively a filter. A filter is used so that the patient, when they exhale, they are not going to contaminate the rest of the outside air near the patient. So this is a bacterial and viral filter, which is applied over here. On the exhale cycle as well, you have over here a specific flow measurement, and you also have a valve over here, which is essentially your PEEP valve. We have talked about PEEP as well. Okay, it creates a back pressure into this lung that keeps this lung inflated. So that's what it is, right? Now again, guys, you have to understand. March 1, we knew zero about ventilators. We knew zero about lungs. We knew about anything about ventilation, nor did we know anything about how this all works. And we were literally learning this thing on the fly while the world was, going crazy. So it was pretty interesting. Now the challenge, how to put it all together, right? So how do we verify that this design works? In a typical scenario, the way the verification would work is you would create a bench, you would bring in these components, you would put these designs together, you would have 20 vendors at your beck and call, they would be bringing in different samples, you would be testing all the samples, and you would be creating a first prototype, right? It does not work. You are in a pandemic, you are in a lockdown. No vendors, no transportation, no components, no factory, and no instruments. How do you do this? Well, where there is a will, there is a way, right? So PCMC was in a containment zone, which is Pune Municipal Corporation, and we were also, and that's where our factory is. So we started thinking, how can we move forward? We figured we had gaps in the following areas that needed to be fixed, right? Control circuits to control these valves, okay? To control these valves, you need to build control circuits, and to control those circuits, you need to have transfer functions. See, everything boils down to math. So all of you guys, okay, if you don't like math, start loving math, okay? Eventually, you will have to love math because all of this is where it boils down to. I used to hate math, okay? And we had this really nice teacher in VPMs, Zambotkar madam, and she taught us math, and I still remember her because when I did start understanding what she was teaching, okay, when I started paying attention, that is, there was nothing wrong with her, there was everything wrong with me. It really opened up amazing amount of things for me in this world, okay? So pay attention to math, math is the key, okay? So transfer functions are the functions that are implemented in software on embedded controllers that will enable us to open and close these valves in a rapid succession to achieve what we want to achieve, okay, in terms of controlling the amount of air and the gas that moves through, okay? The second one was data communications from control circuit to the main board. The main board is an NVIDIA based AI board, okay? The control circuits are, 8-bit controllers or 32-bit controllers. We are using Atmega controllers, which are your Arduino controllers, and we are also using STM32, which is a 32-bit microcontroller, okay? So we are using those two type of controllers. And then The last one was a little bit tricky one. So how do these gases mix and how do they behave when they go from a high pressure to a low pressure? We had no understanding of this. Okay. We had some mechanical designers on our team. We have mechanical designers in the robotics team. So we had a basic idea of this, but again, I think this is fluid dynamics. This is fluid dynamics at a gas level. So fluid dynamics at a fluid level itself is hard. Fluid dynamics as a gas level is multiply that by 100 hard. Okay. So we did get help from a PhD student from IIT Bombay to help us figure out through some of this fluid dynamics math. And then we also ended up with a very interesting module. So we use SolidWorks for all our 3D designs. And SolidWorks has a computational fluid dynamics model that you can use. So we took our design and we put it into the CFD model, and then we were able to model around it. How would it look like if we were to do this thing? Okay. So simulation of hardware. Okay. We started by solving the transfer function that can control the pressure and the flow of the air to the patient. Okay. We use a combination of fluid dynamics and a MATLAB model. Okay. So all of those transfer functions, we use MATLAB for that. Okay. And then we first started with a MATLAB and we created a lung model on MATLAB. There was an open source lung model available. We took that as a baseline and then we adjusted it. So because that is a healthy lung model, we had to now tune it to a COVID-19 lung. So we had to reduce the capacity of the lung. We had to do different things on it to make it work. Okay. We also had to simulate the airflow and the turbulence created as the temperature changes. We had to figure out, because when air goes from a high pressure to a lower pressure, it actually is an exothermic reaction. So there are changes in temperature in that case, right? So we use the CFD module of SolidWorks to model this. And then there was an electronic circuit simulation. So we had a bunch of electronic circuits now to control all of these things. How would we check this? Okay, there were analog parts of it, there were digital parts of it. We use SPICE for analog circuit simulation. And then lastly, we also started writing the software for control and communications. Okay, so all of this was going on side by side at the same time. So let's look at the simulation models using MATLAB. Okay, so I'm going to switch a little bit to a different view. Let's see if I can find it at this point in time. So this is what CFD, the computational fluid dynamic thing. So here is the interesting thing. This is the chamber where the gases are mixing.
Amit, we are not able to see your screen, okay?
Say again? Can you guys see it?
Yeah, you have to share a screen.
Oh, okay, got it. Sorry. Let me see if I can. Is there a way I can share my entire screen without having to share individual things?
So you have to go to stop sharing and go to share a desktop.
Okay, let me do this. No, it doesn't give me the option.
Really?
Yeah, it's fine. I'll manage. Don't worry. So this is the CFD for mixing. Okay, so these are two valves and these are two tubes coming in. This is the part. So we designed the cylinder. We also designed this mixing valve. Okay, and we played around with this angle quite a bit to figure out what would be the temperature inside this cylinder. Okay, and as you can see, this is the temperature over here, and this is the mass fraction of oxygen. So I will show you another thing. This is, let me see. So this is, we ran multiple simulations. I'm trying to, okay, looks like I can't do it over here. I'll do it in another screen and then I'll show it to you. So, looks like this is not working for me as well. So let me show you the MATLAB simulation part at least. Okay. So this is what the simulation looks like on MATLAB. So you have a room air source, then you have, you have the control signal over here, right? You have your function that you create, the transfer function. This is the volumetric supply of the air. It goes in through a humidifier. It goes in through the tube. We even modeled the size of the tube and the diameter of the tube and the length of the tube as well. It goes through different walls. It comes back in. This is a mask over here. And then there is a lung function that we created.
Sorry,
so this is your,
we are not able
Please share your screen.
oh,
We are
I'm
not
really
able to
sorry.
see. Yeah.
I keep on forgetting that this is not sharing.
Yes.
Can you guys see it now?
Yes. We can.
Okay, I'll check this the next time again. Okay, because
Right.
so this is where we get the room air in. It flows through, and the interesting thing about this is we have modeled every small bit of the entire ventilator, including the length of the tubing that we are using, the diameter of the tubing that we are using. Because what we wanted to do was we wanted to shorten the time on the bench with regards to testing. Once we finally get to the point where we are actually today, where we are finally starting to assemble everything, we wanted to dramatically reduce the amount of testing time that was supposed to be used over here, right? And so we modeled as much as we can, as much as we knew. We even took the parameters on our components and the dynamic responses of the components, and we modeled them over here. We modeled the response time of the sensors. We modeled everything that we could into this MATLAB simulation. And that's when we started coming out with the transfer functions that would be used to control these signals and to control these valves. Okay. So that was one of the interesting things. Let me also share with you a couple of other things as we go through this. And by the way, I mean, if there are any questions over here, please let me know. Okay. Okay, can you see this video at least? I'm hoping you do.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes,
so,
yes.
Okay, good. So this is the simulated output of the MATLAB simulator. This is plotting over here the pressure. This is plotting the volume, and this is plotting the amount of air. So those are the three things, and this is from a scope. So you can, in MATLAB, you can actually have scope and you can probe it and you can see inside the circuit what is the output that you are going to receive for a certain type of a transfer function. And if you go in and if you look at any of the ventilators, this is probably very close to what a real ventilator needs to look like. Now understand this. We went from, deciding to build a ventilator to designing a circuit, not having anything to build it. So we said, okay, we are going to go virtual and we are going to do this thing, everything on the computers that we have. So we found things like MATLAB, we found things like SolidWorks CFD, we downloaded all of those. We actually purchased licenses. We spent significant amount of money purchasing licenses of some of these things. And then we created all these functions, right? Then we said, okay, here are the components that we are going to use. So you know, in electronics design, how we do this is we will go in and we will do the math, and we will say, okay, I need a 200 and okay, I need a 306 ohm resistor over here. Okay, so what you do is that you say the nearest one is 330 ohms. Okay, so I'll use a 330. I'll go back and I'll figure out what else do I need to change in my circuit to tune it to this 330 ohms, which is a standard resistor that is available, right? Because you cannot have imperfect values in there, right? Or non-specific values. So that's exactly what we kept on doing. And we kept on doing this thing, and we said, okay, these are the sensors that are available in the worldwide market. Let us figure out which ones can fit into this, and let's figure out. So we did a fit of what is available in the market to this. And so now this will get to a pretty interesting next part. So I think you'll enjoy the next part of this, because this is, and then let us also look at a prototype UI. Let me show you how the prototype UI looks like. Okay. So where is it? I have no idea why this is not allowing me to share some of these things. Okay. So while we were doing this thing, we said, let us start building the UI as well. So the UI team started building this. If you can see this thing, this is Friday the 17th. This is when this was built. So you could come in here and you can select different modes, okay? And then you can apply that mode, okay? You can also configure and you can say, I want to change the value. If FiO2, I want to have at 56% of the value or whatever the value was, right? And then I'll click this, okay? I can then do an IE ratio of 1:2. I can do the respiratory rate of 68 cm of H2O. So this is actually, this is not real, but this is basically a prototype that we created. And I'm giving you an example of this because that's what it was. And then we could go in and there were different alarms. You could go in and set, these are the thresholds. You could go in and look at the history. You could go in and look at the system settings, battery information, patient information, any kind of security. So you could create a passcode, okay? And so these are some of the things. So this is how we started by creating a user interface. This is what the user interface will look like. So while all of that was going on, this was going on in parallel, okay? And we took all this and we said, okay, now we need to go in and we need to show this thing to the doctors and let us make sure that this is all proper and they like it, okay? They liked it, they loved it. They said, this design looks very good. You guys have taken all our feedback into consideration. We like it and we want you to proceed and we want you to figure out if you can get us a prototype. So all ports, all supply chain closed, no imports, we were stuck, right? The entire sensor supply chain had evaporated because everybody who was doing anything in ventilators had literally blocked all of the supply. So we improvised. We ordered the components in US to my home address in Atlanta. And then we got a lucky break. My cousin who was staying with me got an evacuation flight to India by Air India. And so he hand carried all the components to India. But when he came to Pune, he was quarantined. So we ran into another roadblock. So we managed to somehow get around it and we fixed the problem, okay? And, but then there was another problem. All PCB manufacturers in India were inoperational, okay? We found one vendor who could get it done, but he had a 3-week lead time. So we told him to go ahead and get the manufacturing started. At the same time, we started doing the software design and the simulations, right? And thinking ahead, we started building a test bench to test the working of the circuit. Okay. So let's think about it. Okay. You want to create a test bench